If you're ready to unlock your potential to transform the world around you, then join us here on the Lovin Leadership Podcast as we dive into the art of leadership, exploring cutting-edge strategies and timeless wisdom, empowering you to become the exceptional leader you were born to be. You'll learn from inspiring interviews with visionaries, changemakers, and thought leaders who give us practical and actionable, real-life leadership strategies, and we'll celebrate authenticity and empathy because leadership is about connecting with others on a profound level. So if you're ready to transform your leadership journey, don't miss a single episode of the Lovin Leadership Podcast. Subscribe today for access to a wealth of wisdom, inspiration, and actionable strategies. Let's redefine leadership and create a world where every leader leads with love, passion, and purpose. Welcome to the Lovin Leadership Podcast, where we bring you interviews with extraordinary leaders who are changing the world. I'm Dr. Beth Merkel, your Lovin Leadership Podcast host. Our exciting guest on this episode is Tony Veland, a former defensive back for the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers, who's leading the charge to improve technology education. He's the Director of Business Development at AIM Institute, an Omaha-based nonprofit whose mission is to grow, connect, and inspire the tech talent community through education and career development. Tony is also on the board of directors of Teammates, a nationally acclaimed school-based mentoring program for young people. And he's deeply involved in the Omaha STEM Ecosystem, a tremendous effort to boost science and tech education across 12 school districts in Greater Omaha. I'm so grateful to you, Tony, for accepting my invitation to join me on the Lovin Leadership Podcast. Welcome to the show, Tony Veland. It's so great to have you with us today.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I appreciate being on your podcast, and I love what you guys are doing. So the chance to be able to come out here and kind of give my insight would be great.
Fantastic. This is for those of you tuning in. Tony and I just kind of met, not by chance, but because I read an article that he wrote about the needs for STEM field in, well, at least in the Omaha area, but I think that applies to the STEM field at large. And I'm working on a grant with my university to support STEM students from the time they start their degree to the time they finish their degree. So I saw a lot of overlap, and I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to really talk about something we haven't talked about yet on Lovin Leadership Podcast, and that's the STEM field in particular. And I know that you have so many insights into leadership from your football career, which was stellar, and your career in finance. And now you're focusing in on STEM, but you bring all of that understanding of leadership into this field. So I'm excited to talk about this with you today. And I'm wondering, could you just give us a little bit of background about how did you get here? How'd you get here with AIM Institute?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I really don't have, even though AIM focuses on tech fields, I really don't have that much of a background in tech. I'm born and raised here in Omaha, Nebraska, and went to Benson High School, ended up going to University of Nebraska, Lincoln, majored actually in engineering. And I got 2.5 years in engineering and figured that wasn't the field that I wanted to go into. So I ended up changing and going into business. So I graduated with a degree in interdiscipline studies, which was engineering and basic business. I got that degree and ended up fortunately getting drafted to the NFL. I played in the NFL for 3 years, 2 years for the Denver Broncos, 1 year for the Carolina Panthers. And if anybody knows anything about NFL, it generally stands for not for long. So once that was done, I made a transition into the world of finance. I saw some things that happened in football where people were kind of mismanaging funds, and it kind of made me want to help people be better stewards of their finances. And so I went into that field for about 15 years. And then one day I was sitting at my desk and I ended up getting an email from the guy who gave me my first job out of college. And he kind of talked about this organization, AIM, and kind of what they were doing in the tech field. And at that particular time, I was comfortable with where I was at. I wasn't necessarily thinking about leaving, but he knew that I was someone who was always highly involved in doing things for the community, especially things for the youth. And so I went ahead and looked at the opportunity to get involved with AIM. And, when I found out that they're a nonprofit that focuses on providing tech opportunities to those who are underserved in our communities, especially those who, come from communities like mine, underserved populations, people who look like me. When I found out that that was something that we're doing, I kind of wanted to jump in with 2 feet. You can see my screen in the back. I have the football jersey up, so sports has been a huge part of my background, and I can talk to people till I'm blue in the face with sports. But when it comes to kids and it comes to opportunities, being able to take care of yourself in a sports arena, that's something that's not a high probability, when it comes to talking to kids. And so I wanted to have something that would be a better platform that all kids could pretty much, gravitate towards. And Tech is it. Tech is just it, because every kid has a cell phone, every kid has apps, they have social media, they have video games, all these things that they're using as a consumer. But there are tech jobs and opportunities out there that they could take advantage of if they're just made aware, if they're pushed towards that space, and if they take advantage of the resources that are actually out there. So when I found that out, I was like, let me jump in this and let me see if I can help, kind of solve the problem out there.
Excellent. I see, again, so many connections between, what we do. The university I work for has a social justice mission where we work to make sure that everyone who, our undergraduate is predominantly female, so all women who want an education, we will do everything in our power to help them get that, and particularly from marginalized populations. And the difference it can make is so powerful. And then when you take kind of an untapped into, if you will, population and match it up with this field that has such great need, and the need will never end in tech. But what a perfect match, right? That's what I'm striving for from the education side. That's what you're striving for from the community connection side. But what if I'm a leader in a company, or an entrepreneurship, and I'm starting out, or, how can that person be part of the solution? And I'll take a step back and say, what are the actual problems that we're facing that you see from your perspective, and how can we, as just regular leaders, for those of you who are just listening, I'm air quoting here, regular listeners, regular leaders, be part of the solution?
Well, it's not an easy, problem that a lot of companies are facing. When we talk about, all these jobs that are available in tech, well, they're available because we have a shortage of people with those skills, right? And so, especially in this particular area, I went to the Nebraska Tech Summit it was about a week ago here, and one of the things that I learned was that as a state, we rank, I want to say like 35th or 36th in the number of STEM grads that we actually have here. So that doesn't bode well if you're trying to find people to actually, fill those jobs. So, as a leader, in essence, you've got to, do a couple of things. You've got to go outside of the state, to find that need, or you've got to change your hiring practice to find people who aren't necessarily graduating with 4-year degrees in those particular fields. And so, I think that is something that a lot of companies are, those type of practices that they're actually taking advantage of here. And you've got, this has got to be more of a, find individuals who have good experience, find individuals who have different backgrounds, find individuals who have, maybe more certifications and kind of this micro certification, learning environment. Those are some of the things you're going to have to take advantage of now. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to fill those, those positions that are available within your organization. And I think this is something that it isn't one particular company that's struggling with this. The whole field is struggling. Whether it's STEM fields, whether it's the trades, like it's a little bit of everywhere, to be completely honest with you. And so you've got to bring in resources and talk to other leaders or companies that kind of see, what they're doing to handle these problems. But the last thing you can do is, kind of go with the status quo. We've always, focused on people with 4-year degrees, and we're not going to change from that. Well, if you're going to change from that, then you're not going to be profitable. You're not going to grow the way you want to. You're not going to be efficient. You're not going to be able to, stay abreast of the new technologies that are coming. You've got to be able to adapt and change the same as this environment is changing. And so, and if you aren't leading the charge, like when it's all said and done, because I think a lot of this stuff has to come from the top down. Right. You have to realize that in order for you to be able to accomplish your goal, there has to be efficiencies that increase within your team, within your organization. And you can't do that if you aren't making sure that you're catering to this pipeline story. Like you've got to be able to do something, whether that's, putting resources toward it, whether putting capital toward it, whether you're helping with curriculum, whether you're, helping to kind of steer the conversation and getting together with education to say, okay, what can we do to get more people ready quicker and to get people who can actually move the needle actually right now, and so, with one thing that I've seen, and I've been, doing this thing for the last 6 years, there are a number of organizations that like to kick this can down the road, so to say, and they're like, well, it's not affected me quite as much. We're kind of getting by. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing. Well, the technologies are changing more and more every day, right? That's creating more jobs every day, which means that there's more of a shortage. That shortage is growing. So unless companies are really getting involved, and at all levels, at the corporate level, at school levels, at, education levels, you have to be able to get in and say, I want to be part of the solution and actually, put the resources behind it to make it happen.
One of the things that I was particularly good at was noticing those transferable skills. People would come in and say, well, I don't have a 4-year degree in programming. At the time, this is Y2K. This is a million years ago, right? You're going, what? The legends, but it can't be true. No, it was. And so, we had this huge need for programmers and just couldn't find them. And one of the things I was really good at was noticing these transferable skills. So yeah, they didn't have a degree. They didn't have 5 years of on-the-job experience with this or that or the other programming language. But what they had was a strong work ethic. What they had was a willingness to learn. What they had was ability to organize and these things. I was like, I can work with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of my most successful recruits would not have qualified otherwise if it wasn't for these transferable skills. So I see that as part of the problem. Let's open up our minds, use our imaginations a little bit.
Exactly. And again, you've got to do things that are different, right? Because if you've, in the past, they've recruited towards the same people, they've recruited for the exact same things, and you're expecting different results with in the same action, which obviously makes no sense, right? And then we also got to consider, we're 3 years removed, but we're still coming from COVID, right? Yeah. So you're still coming from a situation where, people who were sitting on the sideline for quite a while, may have lost jobs or trying to launch into different careers, but they may not have the finance that it takes, to dive into a 4-year career or that type of thing. And so you've got to have different ways for people to learn quickly and also meet them kind of where they are. And so, that's one of the things that I'm proud of that AIM does, because we provide for people to get into these certifications basically without the finance, because we've kind of removed that barrier. And as you do that, then it kind of opens the door for people who have, different backgrounds, different mindsets. And although you may not get that, super technical person that you're looking for, it allows you to open the door and be able to, better train them on what's going on within your particular organization. And I think that's one area where most companies they're just going to have to start doing moving forward. And that's being more part of the training. You can't just rely on just education to get your kids ready, to get those applicants ready any longer, because technologies are changing too fast. So there's obviously a core foundation that they need to have, But once they come to your door, like it needs to be on you. It needs to be on you as an organization to kind of change your environment to be, listen, we are about continuous learning. We're trying to make sure that not only are we staying abreast of the things that are coming, but we want these people that are coming in to understand that we're all about development. About development of the company. We're about staying in the forefront of technologies, but we're also about the development of our people. And if we are, putting those things forward, that's not only going to help the company, that's going to help with retaining people, because, people are coming in, they want to know that I have a chance to move up the level, to move up the corporate ladder. And the best way to somewhat stay recession proof as a person, so to say, is to keep learning. To keep
Absolutely.
learning. As things change, you're abreast of it, and are able to, provide value regardless of what the situation is. So I think that's really a key thing that companies have to do moving forward.
So what can I do? What let's say Beth Merkel, middle manager at a large corporation or hospital system or whatever. I really want to be part of the solution. What are some steps I can do, possibly through AIM Institute or in general with the community, to get these people in, to open this door to opportunity?
Well, one thing that you can do is we have youth programs that we allow subject matter experts to come in and just kind of talk about what their journey has been. So it allows you to kind of get in front of kids and let them know that even though this field is huge and it can be a little scary to get into, that you don't necessarily have to be scared. It doesn't have to be a direct road to where you are. I think that's one thing that kind of scares, people, that, if I didn't grow up with a tech background, if I didn't get a degree in tech, then there's no way that I can get into this field. And that's, number one, that's not the case. A lot of us, get from A to B going here, and here before we got there, right? So if we can, share that, right? So if we can share that story with kids, I think that makes it less daunting. Another thing is to kind of be able to share the story, and show, people who are actually out there that, in order for us to be able to move the needle, it takes human capital. Right, where it takes people caring, it takes people, coming in, either helping with, curriculum, or coming in to be a speaker, or to come in and just kind of open the door to people who may not know where to look. One thing that's always been really important to me is the networking aspect of everything we do, right? Because as we network, I find out what you're interested in, you find out what I'm interested in, and sometimes we can actually share that with the people within our own bubbles. And that's how, this conversation, grows and blooms, and we bring more people to the table to actually solve some of these issues. Another thing is if you know of either individuals or companies who are really trying to, grow in this space or have an impact in this space, connecting them to us, you know what I'm saying? Because the more you bring people to the table, the more resources that we're going to have. And, they may have people that may be able to help with some of those other things as well. So I think just kind of talking and kind of sharing what the message is, but actually really getting involved, coming in and seeing, what happens with the kids, see what happens when people go through our co-school, sharing the internships and apprenticeship opportunities that are out there, because that's in essence where we want people to end, right? You want to start towards as a career. The end goal is actually finding a job or starting your own company in this particular space, and making sure we have the resources in between that will help facilitate a lot of that.
In my research working with STEM students, and I just completed an interview process with first year and second year students from across several different disciplines, most of them healthcare related, but still STEM, and many of them from first generation college families. And there is this perception like I know I'm supposed to go into this, but I don't even really know what it is. I don't know what a chemist or a scientist does.
Right.
I know, I've heard I'll make a lot of money. I've heard I've had the opportunity. But my family's freaked out too. They don't know what this is either. So there really is a call and a need for mentoring. That's
Yeah.
one thing they ask for quite specifically. Can I be connected to somebody who does this? Can I shadow them? Can I go to work with them? Can I just talk with them without a teacher
Right.
hanging around? So I have to watch what I say.
Right. Right. And that is something that does happen. And when we talk, a lot of times when I'm talking to partners, I'm telling them about the programs that we have and ways that they can get involved in volunteering and those type of things. And sometimes they'll actually help asking, can we have kids come to our place? Can they actually see, kind of what we're doing? Can they shadow? Because like it goes both ways. We need for the kids to be able to see the workplace and to see what's coming, down the line. But the companies also need people to be able to kind of market what they're doing, a way to connect to new talent, to be able to connect to youth and present, because that helps with recruiting. That helps also with brand exposure. A lot of these kids don't really think about the companies that are out there because they're in their bubble, they're with school, So, I can remember when I graduated going to college, there was only really two companies that I knew really well. And that was First National and UP, but that was because they did programs within our schools. If you have some of those companies that really want to be exposed to kids, that's the way to do it. Find a school that you can either adopt or do some type of program with that kind of talks about kind of what you do and kind of career development path. And, those kids aren't going to forget that, so when it's time for them to graduate, they're trying to get into a job, they're not necessarily going to go out of state automatically. They're going to be like, hey, well, this particular company, AIM, they helped me do X, Y, Z. Maybe I see if there's an opportunity there. So those things actually kind of come full circle as long as you're getting involved when kids are young.
Well, if you think about it, product marketers have been doing that for generations, right?
Right.
I was just watching my grandkids play with, Tonka toys or, whatever, or John Deere toys. And I'm like, it works, right?
Right.
So we
Right.
talk to people about their options or create an emotional connection. And I'm not saying manipulation here, I'm saying information. And create that emotional connection while they're still young and formative and looking for those opportunities. I could even see this going to junior high school and just going in for career days and that kind of thing, like you said.
And I think it's important, like, again, just to get involved from a younger perspective, because I think the studies show that if you wait to high school to kind of introduce them to tech, then odds are they probably won't stay in it. But if you reach them while they're middle school or younger, then they have a chance to really, gain an affinity with it and hopefully, pick that particular career. So that's why it's important that we're trying to reach kids younger. And look, kids are already ingrained in technology. They just
they know how to use it.
They
don't know
how
where
to
it
use
comes
it.
from.
Well, right, exactly. But that's where it starts, right? That's where it starts. But I think the other side of this is, even as kids are younger, just letting them know that there are different pathways that they can choose towards these fields, right? And even though tech is big, is huge, and there are different industries, tech is touching every industry. STEM is touching almost every industry. That's how industries are moving forward, right? So, almost anymore, every company is a tech company. So it's just really, teaching kids about what the opportunities are there for you, and then let them know that you may not understand this, but you can make pretty good money in this field if you stay, in this field. And so it's really about the awareness. It's really about access. It's really about reaching them when they're young, and then allowing this whole ecosystem to kind of benefit both parties.
I see the wisdom in that, and just opening up their minds. So everybody needs. We don't know what we don't know,
Right.
and we can't even form intelligent questions until we have some information. And the earlier we get some level of information to people, the earlier they can start asking questions and finding out the answers. And then if there's an organization like AIM and a tech community surrounding them to help support that exploration, hopefully, it sounds like, in theory, that's a big part of the solution to building that tech community that will feed the industry.
Of course. They've got all the information. And again, we don't expect every kid that we expose to the programs that we do in tech to go into that field, but in our mind, like they should have the access. They should know that it's available to them. In the past, there were a lot of underserved populations that just didn't know it was available. And so we need to solve that problem.
I always think about it from the other side, from my listener side, and say, okay, if I am a leader, what action steps do I take? Yes, I want to be a leader. I want to be a mentor, even through something like teammates, and you're on the board of directors of teammates. So that's a wonderful way to get involved and let young people know their options. But let's face it, this kind of involvement takes time and money and effort. So how do I convince the powers that be in my organization to give me some time, to give my people on my team some time, to invest a little bit of money in this effort? Because without it, we're just going to go back to that status quo. We've got to have some investment. What arguments can we make to convince the powers that be that this is a good idea?
Well, I think it's going to come down to how is your talent being filled, right? Are you finding the people that you want, and if you aren't, how do you propose that you're going to solve that problem? That's kind of where it comes down to. Most companies, they aren't finding the talent, number one, but they definitely aren't finding diverse talent too. So if you aren't finding that talent, what are you doing to help the problem, especially in the areas that you're looking for? And if you aren't doing anything, in essence, you've got to come to a realization that if I don't change anything, this problem that we have is only going to grow. That's number one. Number two, people who are looking to work for companies are becoming so much more socially aware and socially conscious that if companies aren't doing things in the community, that they won't consider that working for that company. This younger generation, they want companies who are doing amazing things. They're because of social media, they see all the stuff that's actually going on, right? And then they see the injustices and those type of things. And so they're much more aware, and they want to know that not only are they getting, good payment and good benefits and all that stuff, but they want to know that they're working for a good company that actually wants to grow the community. And so this is a way to actually kill two birds with one stone. Like, you're thinking long term from a business perspective. I need more people in this pipeline because that's going to help my company be more profitable. It's going to help me grow my diversity numbers. It's going to help me grow all those type of things. But the other side of that is no longer is this just a moral, ethical question anymore. It's a business question. Right, I need to have more diverse people on my team because the studies show that more diverse workforces, they have better ideation, and long term they bring in more money. So from a business perspective, I need to be doing this. Right. The third part of this is that I need to grow a community. Right. If I'm within my community, I need to be doing things that's not just taking from the people who are within my community. I need to be giving back. I need to be making sure that I'm empowering those people who we're providing services for, but we're also, getting their dollars from using our services. This is how we're giving back. We're providing opportunities for people who may be in marginalized situations, may be in situations that they just haven't had, a lot of opportunity in the past. We're creating that opportunity. We're giving them a chance to build up their families. We're giving them a chance to maybe get out of a cycle of poverty. We're giving them a chance to connect with people that will provide resources for them to upskill and upgrade their lives. I think, in my opinion, that's really kind of the trade-off. And I don't think that, if you can't listen to that particular argument, then I think something's wrong with you as a leader. That's just my own opinion. So, and don't get me wrong. I know that there are a number of leaders who have particular things that they're trying to accomplish, goals and the like. So you kind of have to juggle all those things. But every company has some part of community building that they're charged with doing on a yearly basis, right? So why not have something that can actually build up the community, but also address your business issue at the same time long term? And that's in essence a lot of the times when I'm talking to companies, that's the argument that I'm presenting to them.
So that's so interesting because in the same way that you said, STEM touches every aspect of our lives. Building the community, building the STEM community just affects every aspect of
Yeah.
our community.
Right.
Financially, socioeconomically, just in terms of retaining brain power by
Right.
giving them something to do, the way that our organizations problem solve, which is critical, that we have to be able to problem solve quickly and from so many different perspectives. This is all stuff that I teach in my MSOS program over and over and over again. There's
Right.
such power in diversity. In some areas of the country, it can be really hard, as much as we try to be, and I'll say specifically racially diverse, it can be really difficult to 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 make those connections.
Yeah, it can, but I will say, and this is just my personal observation. I would say, like, diversity in itself. I mean, racism and all those type of things. That, in my opinion, especially here, there are plenty of haves to take care of the have-nots. Right. I think there's plenty of that, but I think a lot of it doesn't happen because there's a perception of people or perception of an area that scares people away from coming together, and I think that, if we can get past that, then I think, sky's the limit, because there are plenty of people who, live in disadvantaged areas who are amazing people and who can do, quite a bit. And if the two aren't scared and they can get past kind of their, stereotypes of each other, I think so much, can happen, but we have to kind of get past, those what we've, been taught in our minds about, this side of the road or that side of the road. Listen, we got to think about what the goal is. The goal is to help each other. We were all put here on earth to serve each other, not to serve ourselves, but to serve each other. So if we can put all that crap, aside and kind of come together, then I think it'll be easy to, help those people who just haven't had access to opportunity and those type of things. And so once that happens, I think this place will move forward quite a bit. But I think as a leader in the business, a lot of times you have the resource and you have the power to be able to make things happen in this area. And I think that's something that people should continue to do.
I absolutely agree. As you were talking, in my mind, I get these like big neon words that flash in my brain. And this one was story. And you referred to telling the story. We have to be part of the story. We have to tell the story, even as we're helping to create the story.
Right.
And I think by building those connections to people that are just different than us in any way and every way. I mean, it's just more interesting. Life is more interesting if I can share my story with somebody that that has never understood my perspective before,
You're
and
right.
then I can listen to theirs,
Right.
whether it's race, ethnicity, sociocultural status, whether it's physical ability, mental ability, different religions, perspectives, whatever the difference is, to really connect with people, share
Right.
the story, hear
Right.
theirs, build community.
Exactly.
Then, as I would tell my students, what we're doing in the process, we're connecting as human beings, and we're collecting data. Right? I tend to go back to that science geek that's was for a long time buried deep inside of me, but here it is. So by sharing who and what we are, we're offering this data for other people to collect. And by hearing the stories, we're listening and we're collecting data. And then we can make these meaningful connections in our communities and in our own companies.
Exactly.
And say, wait a minute. You say you don't have a degree yet, but I understand that, what I'm hearing you say is this, and this, and
Right.
that sounds a lot like you'd fit in well with my company. So what can we do to help you complete that degree? And let's call Tony at AIM Institute.
Right. Exactly. Love that.
So who was it? I'll attribute this to Maya Angelou. I'm not 100% sure it was hers, but you can't hate somebody whose story you know. And when we let down those barriers, if we had piles of money, but the money was, some was quarters, some was dollars, some was gold,
Right.
we wouldn't ignore any of it. Right? We would use it all, no matter what it looked like or seemed like. And how much more valuable is this human spirit, is this human energy we can bring to each other.
Right. So, I agree. Completely agree.
Yeah. I'm preaching now.
That's all right. I'm listening to the sermon. Let's do it.
This is fantastic. So what I'd like to do is just kind of come full circle and recap. If you wanted our audience, and again, let's see, these are people who are already in leadership roles or who are wanting to advance into leadership roles, are looking for ways to really get some solid understanding of what they can do. What would you like them to walk away from this podcast knowing and thinking, I can do this and I can do that?
I would say if you're trying to connect around, this problem of, the tech talent shortage and those types of things, connect with us at AIM, connect with the Omaha STEM Ecosystem, connect with the Nebraska Tech Collaborative, because we're all doing things to, move the needle in this area. And the other part of this is that we're connected to a lot of other organizations who see how important the problem is, and we're creating platforms where we can all come together, and kind of solve this problem, because it's, it is a big issue, and there are a lot of people who want to come in and help in some way, some shape, some form. But what we're also trying to do is make sure that everybody stays in a lane that allows us to be efficient with what we're trying to do. Right? Yeah, we have schools that are coming in. We have education pieces that are coming in. We have advocacy that comes in. We have business that comes in. We have nonprofits that come in. And so in order to be able to find your lane, it would be great for you to be able to come to the table and kind of understand what we're doing, understand what your strengths are, so we can find out, where you'd be the most helpful, So, reach out to me at the aiminstitute.org. I would love to, get anybody involved who, has a heart to help the community, but also wants to solve a business problem as well. And I can definitely get you involved in some different ways.
Fantastic. We'll have your contact information, links to all of the organizations that you mentioned in the show notes. So you'll be able to get in touch with Tony Veland, no problem. Tony, is Aim's reach specific to the Greater Omaha area, or if I'm in Kansas City or Seattle, Washington, can I contact you, Aim, and get connected somehow?
So we are specific to Nebraska. We do more in the Omaha area. We also have satellite office in Scottsbluff. So we're really trying to focus more on our local talent growth. But we do have some events and some programs that actually would benefit organizations that are actually outside of the state. We put on a software development conference every year called the Harlan Developers Conference. And if you're an organization who, may be looking for developers and maybe looking to, market development in this particular area, we would be a great organization for you to be able to take advantage of. Please reach out to me with that. The other side of it is we also provide services in tech leadership. We have an advanced leaders program and an emerging leaders program. For our emerging leaders will be for somebody who's a tech star and they're thinking about going into management. They don't know for sure, but they're thinking about that. A lot of times we find somebody who's really, really good at something and we want to have them manage somebody. Well, sometimes, great performers don't end up being good managers, and so this gives a chance for people to kind of kick the tires of it, right? Find out what these are the issues that you have to deal with. These are the concerns and these are the things you're going to have to do. So it's a program that allows them to kind of see, is this the route I want to go? That's our emerging leaders. And then we have an advanced leaders program for people who are already in tech management. You're doing really good. You've been doing it 3 or 4 years, but you need to kind of upskill, your management. You need to grow your leadership, develop a little bit further. And so we have cohorts that do that as well. And that can be, done across the state as well. So we do have ways for people to still serve. And if they just want to, they see what's going on in the Nebraska area, they want to, help and bless us to grow our youth programs, we'd love for them to do that as well.
Fantastic. And you just heard where Tony's and my world absolutely collide and mix so beautifully. Yeah. It's in that the tech leaders and the advanced leadership, and just really understanding that we can do something really well. Right. But that doesn't necessarily mean we can lead somebody to do that same thing really well. And so just, again, it's about advancing those skills and knowing what's out there, what opportunities you have, whether it's MSOL, whether it's through the AIM Institute, to just say, what skills do I need and how do I advance those? And then once you have those in your toolbox, then you can look around and go, okay, I'm ready to share, okay, where's that person I'm going to mentor and create a greater purpose to my role and my job by sharing it around and creating those connections you talked about, sharing the story. It all just keeps coming full circle.
That's right.
People are people, and we have to connect on that level. So thank you for that. Obviously, I get all excited about these things. It makes me so happy. So what would you like us to know about? I know you touched a little bit on it, but is there anything else specifically that you'd like to promote or tell us about or connect us to what's going on in Tony Veland's world?
Honestly, I mean, I like to focus on things with AIM and also with teammates. So I'll just say if you are looking to support a couple of organizations that I think are having really good impact in the community, really good impact on the people. Obviously I got to, promote AIM Institute. Again, we're trying to provide opportunities for people to get into tech, and we serve K to gray, so it doesn't matter whether you're young or old. So would love for you to consider either volunteering or, consider, financially blessing us, because obviously as a nonprofit, it takes those type of resources to be able to expand our reach. So we'll love that. The other side is, you even mentioned it, teammates. I've been with teammates for the last 12 years, mentoring with them, and also sit on the board. And I don't think there's anyone I know who's been really, really successful who hasn't had a mentor along the way, and considering the problems that, kids have, faced through COVID, and considering the distraction that they have with social media and all this other stuff out there, they need people who've been through it to kind of help them, guide them through the landmines and just guide them through life in general. And so every experience that you've experienced as an adult is something that these kids can benefit from, and we all need, again, help each other and be better servants, for the people that we're here on earth with. So we'd love for people to consider being a mentor, teammates.org, school-based program. And we're always looking for people to help our kids.
I think this is the beginning of the conversation, Tony. There's so much more for us to connect over and so much more to talk about for our Love and Leadership audience. So thank you so much for being our guest today, kind of walking us through some of the unique and kind of not so unique problems that the tech field is facing today, and letting us know that there are solutions, and that when we come together, we are much more solutions oriented, and we're much more likely to solve them for the long run, not kick the can down the road.
Right, exactly. Exactly. No, thank you again for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you drawing attention to some of these issues. Again, it's, we all have talents, we all have resources. We just need to bring them together for the common good.
That is so true. And thank you for tuning in to the Love and Leadership podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, share this episode, and hit that notifications button so you won't miss out on a single thing. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that it inspired you to be part of the solution to some of the biggest issues we face in STEM and all leadership fields. Remember that leading with love is a superpower that transforms the world around us. So let's go out there and make a difference, one Lovin act at a time. I'm Dr. Beth Merkel, and I can't wait to connect with you again on the next episode of Lovin Leadership. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey we call Lovin Leadership. Now it's time for you to take action and unleash your true leadership potential. Here are 4 easy steps you can take today. Number 1, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Number 2, share. Share the love with your friends, colleagues, and fellow leaders. Number 3, connect to our Lovin Leadership community by clicking the link below. And finally, take the knowledge and wisdom that you've gained from this podcast and put it into action. The Lovin Leadership podcast is more than just a podcast. It's a movement. Together, let's rewrite the leadership narrative and create a world where love, passion, and purpose thrive. I can't wait to see the incredible impact you'll make as a Lovin leader. Stay tuned for our next episode, and until then, lead on with love.